opportunity to talk to you. The topic for today's conversation is investing in technology, a roadmap for economic growth. Now, what we've seen in the last decade or so is that investments in technology have become a critical business necessity for most companies, for most enterprises. And Mr. Parekh has been at the forefront of driving a lot of this transformation across enterprises, both within Infosys and before that. So I'd like to begin this conversation by asking you for a bird's eye view of what you've seen over the last decade in terms of the transformation that's taking place, the core technologies that are now driving productivity increases, and that businesses are adapting to increasingly.
So thank you for that question. I think we've seen across the world a huge digital transformation going on, especially over the last 2 years, but in general over the last several years, starting maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And the focus of this is a set of technologies which are making the way to connect, whether it's with customers of companies, with employees, with suppliers, broadly with the entire ecosystem, that connection is becoming much more simple, efficient, seamless. These technologies include areas like the cloud, which has a huge set of implications, whether you look at the private cloud, public cloud, a hybrid environment, cloud native, where all the new development is done, or the SaaS companies. The second area is really on data and analytics, how data is being used by large global companies to become much more efficient in how they track how their customers are using products, what is the way to attract the most relevant client base. There's a lot of uses of data and the analytics associated with it. Then there are technologies like Internet of Things, cyber security, and of course, more and more focus today on artificial intelligence, machine learning. We are also seeing that the use of technology, meaning how technology is connected to us, the way we look at apps on a mobile, the way individuals connect with the world, that experience needs to be very smooth, very efficient, very intuitive. And that whole customer experience has changed as well. All of these things put together are making a huge change in the lives of global companies. And Infosys and broadly the technology world is looking to support and help them to drive that change. So, a big digital transformation agenda has been in play for the last several years.
Right. And could you talk to us a little bit about what Infosys has been doing over the last 3, 4 years to actually make this pivot and cater to the needs of its clients? Because as I understand, there's been a big shift within Infosys to actually cater to these changing demands. And now the revenue from digital services actually exceeds about 50% of your revenues. So what's been the process of change and what have been the key drivers?
So here you're absolutely right. Infosys is fortunate to be positioned with all of these capabilities, whether it's in cloud, in data analytics, cyber security, and others, to be there to support clients as they are making this digital change. We have more than 50% of our work today coming from all these areas, and the growth is quite remarkable because clients are really driving that sort of a growth today. It's not just a growth coming from where they were looking at this being an operating cost. It's also become a big investment for large companies to drive this sort of a change. What we've done within Infosys is first, focus on what clients are looking for, so become even more relevant for clients. Second, build all the capabilities in these areas that we were just discussing. Each of these areas needs more capability building, making sure that we have all of the platforms. For example, in cloud, We built a platform called Cobol, which has all the cloud capabilities of the world, 300 industry templates, 30,000 different objects which clients can use to just go faster on the cloud, to build all the capabilities. And third is something a little bit softer. We've put in place something called One Infosys, where everyone in the company is working together jointly to make sure that the client's needs are put first and making sure that all of that work is getting done with a lens which is client focused. So really more client relevance, building on the digital capabilities and one Infosys. These are some of the changes that we've put in place, and that has helped us last quarter. We grew at 19%, and we see very good growth coming in the future as well.
Right. And related to this, there was one concept that piqued my interest, which was a term called live enterprise. And I was just curious to understand what you mean by it in specifics, and what does it mean for a business enterprise to be a live enterprise, and how does a company like Infosys actually cater to this kind of entrepreneurial system?
So live enterprise is a very unique concept. It's really taking all of these digital technologies that we were just discussing, and first we've applied it to us within Infosys. So everything all our employees, our clients, our suppliers see with Infosys is part of the live enterprise. For example, I have an app in me which tells me everything I need to know about how, as an employee, I connect with the organization. All of our 280,000 employees have that. I have a learning platform called Wingspan, where all of our learning, reskilling capabilities are. But every element of what we do within the company is part of this live enterprise. Now we are also showcasing this. For example, we've done work with retail companies, with consumer product companies, with banks, with utilities to make them live enterprise ready. So you build the infrastructure for this, modernize the infrastructure, and have all of the components connect. This is one way that we decided some time ago to make sure that we were doing to ourselves what we are now recommending to all of our clients, which has become fully digitally transformed. And that is the essence of the live enterprise.
Right. Thank you for that. And related to this is the idea of what kind of enabling infrastructure or ecosystem is actually necessary to enable this kind of a transformation. And I would categorize these into two. One is actual hard physical infrastructure in terms of centers, greater connectivity and better connectivity, and so on. So, what do you think are some of the key drivers, and how is India placed to actually supply some of that?
So there, as you rightly said, there are two components of the infrastructure. One is the hard infrastructure, then we can talk a little bit later about the softer components of that. I think India is extremely well placed in terms of the hard infrastructure. There's tremendous advances in telco, in connectivity, in data center capability all across. There's also tremendous infrastructure we've built within the company where we've allowed and enabled, for example, when COVID happened, we were able to rapidly mobilize all of our people because we had enabled a setup where many of our employees could work in parallel through remote working. That infrastructure was already in place. We simply scaled it up as remote working became more apparent. We were able to build and put in place that sort of an infrastructure over the last few years, the live enterprise that we talked about. So those were within the company. Outside the company, there's also infrastructure where technology capabilities are very readily available in the country, whether it's software, it's hardware. We've scaled up massively the number of laptops, for example, we're using. We've scaled up on these type of technologies that we're using today to connect, like Zoom or many other from different companies. So all of that infrastructure is critical. We are fortunate that within India that exists very strongly, and within Infosys we have taken it to the next level. So we were able to go faster when COVID happened and be ready for our clients and make it safe for our employees.
Right. And as a large multinational company that also services a lot of foreign companies, how important do you feel, uh, is it important to have this infrastructure built out in India? Because you also have capabilities to acquire some of these facilities or some of this infrastructure outside India, data centers, data servers, and so on. Uh, is it critical for you to have this enabling infrastructure in India? Does that give you some kind of a competitive benefit or a cost benefit as opposed to trying to uh, work with these infrastructure services outside India?
So we, as you rightly point out, work worldwide in 40 countries, and we work with this infrastructure in each of those locations. But India, of course, is the center of gravity for the company, and we absolutely would like to have the best infrastructure in India. We also have a lot of innovation, a lot of new ideas. For example, today all our work is agile development. Agile development needs real-time connect between the teams in India and the teams everywhere else. And for that, we need infrastructure which enables all of that to happen seamlessly. So, very much we would like to, and we see that availability of infrastructure in India as well.
Okay. And I wanted to move next to the softer part of this infrastructure, which is human capital. And I just wanted to pick your brains about two aspects. One is Infosys is a large company, and managing this kind of a pivot successfully also requires a shift in how you look at your human capital capabilities within the firm. So, how did you actually manage this transformation? What were some of the key decisions you made and key activities the company took?
So there you again focus on all the right elements where we looked at internally what are the things that we need to do to make sure that this transformation works in a positive way. Infosys over the years has a tremendous reputation with our clients. Our clients have always trusted the company to make sure that Infosys delivers all the right things. That is based on essentially the skills and talent of the employees. We have one of the best, if not the best, training programs when employees join us from college. Employees spend 6 weeks to 3 months going through an extensive training that is customized for Infosys, and then they become deployed on the projects. And this we have further enhanced by building, in addition to that sort of a training, an online training capability, which allows all of our employees to reskill as and when they choose. The technology life cycle today also is shorter. So what was taking maybe 15, 20 years, which skill was relevant, today it's maybe shorter, 5, 10 years. So individuals, all of us in this area, have to reskill ourselves on an ongoing basis. So we've created a platform which our employees can use at any time, any place, to reskill themselves. Say someone wants to learn from their initial expertise, let's say in COBOL, to become much more proficient in cloud. We have a way that a path that allows the employee to do that and get certified internally. Then that allows them to get working on projects which are, let's say, relevant for the cloud industry. There was one big shift that we made, is reskilling approach. The second, we talked a little bit about earlier, was this one Infosys approach. And this is, as I was sharing earlier, a soft approach. We have so many capabilities within the company, and we work with globally about 1,100 large companies where we deploy these capabilities. But when we bring them all together, there is even more impact we can have for clients. So we chose to create a set of approaches inside the company that enabled us to work together as one Infosys, and that has allowed us to do much larger transformation programs for clients. For example, we do programs for a global financial company where we look at their technology and their operations, bring it all together to give their customers a better experience and also build a more efficient platform to run all the operations. So these are things that become possible when the one Infosys mindset starts to come. So those are some of the changes we put in place inside the company, reskilling and one Infosys that have allowed us to drive the transformation.
Right. And related to this, I just wanted your larger observations on the status or the position of education in the IT ecosystem within India. Since you undertake such a extensive reskilling and training operation, do you think there are scope for improvements in the education ecosystem, either in terms of new sets of curriculum that need to be devised, or greater avenues for reskilling on the go? Do you think more needs to be done on this front?
So there, I think the uh, capabilities we have in India are just tremendous. We have one of the best engineering, science, technology talent pool in India that is available anywhere in the world. Just to give you an example, we will recruit approximately 45,000 college graduates this year. Out of that, 42,000 college graduates will be recruited in India. And this is just an incredible number, but it's possible because what we have within the country is significantly larger than that when you put together engineering, technology, science programs. We are well north of 900,000 to a million graduates a year. The quality of the people that we find is very high. We, of course, have the training program that I was describing earlier to make sure that our own methodology of Infosys, what we do on a particular set of areas, whether it's cloud, it's analytics, it's enterprise solutions, it's modernization, all of those, we make sure that all of our employees become well versed with it and some of the new technologies that are coming. Of course, even as things are so good across India, there's always ways we can improve it, where we should constantly look to do new technology skilling in the curriculum. And we see that going on. Of course, we can do more of it. But my own view is the education capabilities, the graduates we receive in India are just exceptional.
Okay. So there's always going to be some element of internal in-house skilling and training that will continue to persist. But you're generally optimistic about the state of our educational institutions, at least in the field of IT. Is that a fair
Absolutely.
summary? Okay.
So the reskilling, so every 5, 7 years now, as technologies change, the reskilling is needed, which is what we do. And when we have college graduates joining, we also have a set of methodologies that we have built, a set of approaches, how to run a technology program. Those are in addition to some technology skills that we are making sure that are imparted to the newly joining college.
Right. And do you think the pandemic has actually made Indian IT professionals more competitive globally, because now it's actually possible to recruit from across borders, it's possible to work from home, it's possible to work from remote locations. So is that going to change the nature of how IT professionals in India actually interact with not just Indian IT companies, but also global companies?
I think the Indian technology talent has always had a very strong position in the global market. It's been known to be a superior talent capability for the last several years. What we've seen in the last couple of years is because of COVID, we've seen remote working gain more prominence. So even in India, we had put in place all the remote working tools and capabilities within Infosys. I know across the industry, others have done that. And that has also made it easier to look at a broader set of roles globally, which allow for remote working. So the knowledge of the Indian technology individuals is well recognized, and now a broader set of roles are also available. So that will further fuel, I think, the growth of the technology capabilities within India.
Right. We have about 5 minutes left, so I have one last question before I take a couple of questions from the audience. And this is on the theme of data regulation. So, this is something that's come up in the last 4 or 5 years. It's become more and more talked about, and companies have had to comply with data regulations, both globally and also increasingly. I think we'll have some kind of a data protection law in the next year or so. So, how do you account for data regulation? Is it purely a cost or a compliance, or does it also create opportunities for you?
So first, the data guidelines, regulations across different jurisdictions, the main objective is to protect individuals, protect privacy, protect some level of intellectual property. And for us, that is a critical element because those are key building blocks that one needs globally and within India to make sure that the industry continues to progress. So the way we see it is these are critical elements. We've always been very careful with these. Now there are specific guidelines or regulations, and there are somewhat different in different jurisdictions. We've taken upon ourselves to make sure that we build something which takes into account all of those jurisdictions. I think the India regulations will also be along those lines. And my own sense is it's not really to be viewed as a cost, but it should be viewed as something which is a critical element or a building block. And further, there will be more work as well, but that's the second sort of a topic where those things become implemented for global enterprises. We are doing some programs of that nature. So, but the first element is much more like a critical building block for the future of the technology world.
Thank you for that. We'll just take a couple of questions from the audience. One question is about the transience or the permanence of the changes after COVID. Uh, they're asking, once industry returns to near normalcy post the pandemic, will the current state of digital transformation continue to persist, or is it going to be transitory?
So here, what I can see talking to clients, executives is they have realized that there is a new way of connecting with employees, with customers, with their suppliers. And the faster that they go onto that new platform, the more growth they will see, the more efficiency they will see. There are many companies which have already gone there, and some are now going faster still. So, in that sense, we have an opportunity over the next several years where everyone is going to go to reach that objective. What it means is that that trend, that movement has started. There was a tremendous acceleration at the start because everyone was going there. But the growth will continue for some time as all enterprises start to converge. The hybrid world is the way people are looking at it. In many ways, consumer behavior will not change. People will still look at online in addition to in person in the future. So the online will have to be built out.
Right, and I had a related question to that, which is to what extent are going work from home arrangements going to persist, at least in the IT sector? Is it again going to be something that companies just adapt to and take for granted, or is it going to shift back to normal soon?
So there again, the big recognition or learning for us has been flexibility, where we have learned that through remote working, firstly, a lot of work is possible. In fact, we've run the entire company on remote work for several quarters. But the flexibility has also enabled us to expand the type of talent pool, different types of individuals who prefer the flexible arrangement, expand the geographical footprint beyond the obvious locations because remote working and flexibility allows for that. So my sense is that will continue. There's also some benefits where it's good when new college graduates, other teams that are working, people across departments meet and work together on projects, connect in person, discuss ideas. So I think some of that will be required as we go back into, let's say, a post-COVID environment. But the flexibility and this working together will both continue. And so we will, in my view, continue to have some level of a hybrid work. The exact contours will depend, as time progresses. What is the type of work? What is the type of location? The needs of the individual. But given all of those factors, some type of hybrid will continue in my view.
Thank you for this, and we've completely run out of time, but this was a great discussion, and thank you for giving us time to pick your mind on these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me and all the questions as well, and best wishes for the rest of the conference.
Thank you.